Is this a new dawn in the Middle East? Or is just this another version of the Dead Sea that we've been dealing with for thousands of years? This is David Tal. This is a Balagan Connection, and we will be talking about the ceasefire, the new dawn that everybody has been talking about, and we'll be asking, wait a minute, is this the Sea of Galilee that's full of life, or is this a Dead Sea that's salty and turning saltier as we go along? Let's talk about what's happening literally on the ground. The ceasefire has been in place for about a week. The hostages, the 20 live hostages, have been released, and that is a celebration. I'm still seeing the ribbons and I'm still seeing the yellow flags all over the country, but it's amazing that Israel has gone through this transformation from without the hostages to with the hostages. That was supposed to be the first stage. The first stage was hostage we released. We give Hamas back 2,000 fighters, 2,000 military-age fighters we put back in its, its troops in Gaza. In return for the ceasefire and us returning them, we got our hostages back, and this would have been the first stage of a 21-point plan that President Trump was celebrating all over the world. He was celebrating this in America. He was celebrating this in Jerusalem. He was celebrating this in Egypt. And the whole world said, here is the peace that's supposed to be ending all of this. It didn't. It didn't end all this. But we saw the sunrise rising. We thought this would be the dawn of a new era. We thought this would change everything in the Middle East. Everybody agreed. I mean, anybody in the Middle East was there. The European countries were there. Macron from France and Starmer from England and everybody was there celebrating this dawn of the new age, celebrating this new period. All of the Arab nations were there. I mean, everybody from Turkey to Qatar to Egypt to Jordan, everybody was there celebrating this new age. There was only two people who weren't there celebrating the New Age, or two countries or two entities that weren't there celebrating the New Age. One is called Israel. Though Benjamin Netanyahu was invited at the end, we're not sure how that worked out, but he wasn't there because of either internal politics or external politics. We can ask what we want, but Hamas wasn't there. Hamas didn't agree to this. Hamas, who has instigated all of this, did not agree to this. I want to back up a little bit quickly, just so we get an overview. So, again, I want this video to be shared with people who don't really agree with me on this one. Israel did not start this war. 7th of October was not our war. On the 6th of October, we thought we were moving towards an agreement with the Palestinians. We thought that the Hamas in Gaza didn't really like us, but had agreed to live peacefully with us. We thought that this was going to be a new age. We were wrong. The 7th of October shook Israel to its core because we realized that our enemy hates us much more than it loves its own people, much more than it loves its own children. And I'm going to put here, if I can, the quote from Golda Meir, who actually quoted this probably about 30 years ago. More, probably 40 years ago. So Hamas pressed the button, did it too early because Hamas believed that them willing to stand up and sacrifice their own people and themselves and to get the first blow in on Israel would galvanize the Arab world, the Palestinians in the West Bank, the Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in the south, and all of the ring of fire that Iran had put so much time and effort and money into creating. They believed that they could galvanize all of that into a great uprising that would wipe Israel off the map. They were wrong. They were wrong on a couple of stages. They were wrong in the fact that the other entities pay lip service to the Palestinians, but don't really care about the Palestinians. And since they were not ready for the battle, they had not agreed that this is the stage that they want to do this, they said to the Palestinians, we'll do a little bit of a balagan, but we will not solve your problem. It escalated a little bit later. So we didn't get the all-out Arab world coming down, descending on us like a ton of bricks, because the Hamas misjudged the Palestinian importance to the rest of the Arab world. At least to the rest of the Arab leadership, maybe not to the population. But Israel was devastated. Israel was at a point where we're saying we cannot trust anybody anymore. We cannot trust people who say they want to kill us, but are willing to not do that. We cannot trust people who hate us on our borders with capability to kill our children, but say right now we're not going to do it. We cannot trust Iran, who says we hate you, you should be destroyed, but right now we're not going to shoot at you. And we cannot trust the world to be on our side. I think that's what happened on the 7th of October. And I think that's played its role on the last 2 years. Now, everybody's saying Israel is keeping this war going for political reasons. No, we are keeping this war going because we need that the bad people who did what they did on the 7th of October and say they're going to do it again. And they've said it again and again and again. We need them to be gone. So President Trump correctly understood that if Israel is going to stop this war, it needs to stop this war with the threat of Hamas erased from our borders, and put that as one of the conditions for the ceasefire. Basically saying, after the return of the hostages, after the ceasefire, after aid goes in, after Palestinian prisons go back to Gaza, then there will be a negotiation and Hamas will disarm and not be a problem for Israel anymore. He said it again, he wrote it down. Everybody said yes. Everybody agreed to that. Hamas agreed to that. They returned the hostages. But what they haven't done is they haven't given up the pride, the stance, the need for power in the Gaza Strip. The first thing that they did after they were handed over control of the areas that Israel pulled out, went from house to house, pulled out Palestinian people, lined them up on the streets, knelt them down in the streets, turned on their cell phones to video it, and executed probably about 100, 120 people as of now, people that they believe were dissidents. That's not a ceasefire. That's not an end to the war. That's not them giving up their power. They called them collaborators, but it reminded us of witch trials in different periods. So that is not happening. And then yesterday, all-out attack against Israeli forces in Gaza Strip, in the areas that we were in according to the agreement. We were across what we call the yellow line. Let's see if I can lay out the yellow line. Parts of the Gaza Strip we moved out of to let the Palestinians reorganize themselves. They were inside the area under Israeli control, and there they decided to come out of a hole in the ground, attack a tractor, attack some soldiers. 2 Israeli soldiers were killed, and the war is back on. We didn't do it. We didn't instigate that. And everything I see means that Hamas is not willing to quit the fight. They say so, and they act accordingly. And this is something that we need to kind of put into the dynamics. The ceasefire isn't holding. And what happens if the ceasefire doesn't hold? What happens if Hamas says, we're going to go all the way on this one? We're going to lose everything, we're going to destroy everything, but we will not give up and we will not give in. And what's going to happen is, I don't think that the Americans will put troops in there to finish off. I don't think the different Arab world is going to put troops in there, because the last thing that Turkey or Saudi Arabia or even Qatar wants is a Turkish soldier being shot by a Palestinian Hamasnik. I mean, their own population would not be able to deal with this. And as we are speaking, okay, this ceasefire is falling apart and nobody is left to deal with it but Israel. I've been talking to people in the Israeli military. As of now, I don't see plans for an all-out attack. As of now, I don't think that we're going to go back into full-fledged war. As of now, I think what Israel is trying to do, and again, I'm kind of putting this on a caveat here because there's long-term repercussions to this. As of now, what Israel is trying to do is to hit the Hamas, usually with air assets or long-range assets, as much as possible, to put them back in the holes in the ground and see if somehow this ceasefire can be turned into something. But the question of what steps into Gaza now that the ceasefire is in place to keep Hamas out of the war and not allow Hamas to continue. There's nothing like the beauty of the Dead Sea early in the morning. Look at this. The lowest place on earth, the salt sea we call the Dead Sea, the hills of Edom and Moab on the other side. There's nothing like it. If you haven't been here, if you haven't come to visit here, if you haven't touched this, if you haven't sat on the shores of the Dead Sea as a sun rises up on the other side, it's time to come. It's time to come to the beauty of the desert and the Dead Sea, the beauty of the Galilee, and the ancient wow of Jerusalem. If that hasn't happened to you yet, you need to do this. Contact me, contact somebody. If you're a church, if you are a congregation, if you're just a group of people who want to come, we can make that happen and come to Israel. Because whatever is happening in Gaza, whatever is happening all the way or other ways, doesn't affect and doesn't impact the people here. Just makes my heart open up. So, as this new dawn rises, the question is, how is the Gaza issue, and in an extension, how is the Palestinian nationalism issue going to be addressed? It seems like the leaders of the Arab world are willing to accept some kind of agreement with the existence of Israel in the Middle East. But it seems that enough of the people, the Arab people, the Muslim people all around the world, and a lot of Arab Muslims in the rest of the world, and even in the European areas, and a lot of regular left-leaning, weirdo liberal people are not willing to live with the existence of a Jewish state, are not willing to live with the existence of me living here, are not willing to live with a state that actually fulfills biblical prophecies. And because there's enough of those people, the governments are having problem making decisions and making agreements that everybody else will have to accept. And I think we're in this contrast. But I want to stress something that a lot of people don't look at, because I'm inside, but far enough away to do this. All of my life growing up in Israel, and I've been here since I was 4 years old, ever since the 1960s, immediately after the Six-Day War, okay, there was this feeling that the Arab world could take on Israel. In 1948, 5 Arab nations attacked Israel in order to destroy the tiny little Israel that had just been declared by the United Nations. In 1967, it was 3 Arab nations. It was Syria, Jordan, and Egypt. They lost the wars in both times. In 1973, Jordan wasn't a part of it, so it was only Syria and Egypt, but again, they lost the war. So I think the Arab world, the Muslim world, the rhetoric has stayed the same in many cases, but has agreed that they cannot take Israel on the battlefield. They cannot destroy Israel on the battlefield. So Egypt made peace, Jordan made peace. We're talking about peace with some of the other ones, and there's this feeling that it's coming together to something like that. The Palestinians, who saw themselves as the holders of the resistance flag, started off with waves of terrorism in the 1970s and 80s, led by the Palestine Liberation Organization. That didn't really work. They've agreed to cease firing or cease fighting in the Oslo Accords in return to some kind of autonomy in areas of the West Bank and in the Gaza Strip. They were supposed to take control of the Gaza Strip. So the moderate Palestinians even don't really like Israel, but are willing to live in relative peace. The last Palestinian Muslim fanatic crazy person left standing is the Hamas, which is a version of Al-Qaeda, which is a version of ISIS, which is a version of the most terrible Muslim fanatic crazies that you can think of. And they're the last ones holding the Muslim flag of pride. And they're the ones that say, if we give up, everybody's given up, which is why this is a pivotal point. Because when this changes, when the Hamas gives in, then there is no one left fighting the existence of Israel in the Middle East. And that's when all of the Middle East, and this is what the Trump plan is, will be coming together for economic reasons and not for political and not for religious fanatic reasons. That's the situation right now. We have to wait and see what's going to happen in the next couple of days, literally couple of days. So pray for us. As you can see, I'm with the group in Israel. We're having a wonderful time. We've left the Galilee. We're now in the Dead Sea, and we're going to be heading up to Jerusalem today. I mean, I'm all excited about how this is going to work. I hope you can even see me on the screen with the sun coming up behind me, but I thought that would be a nice one. In the meantime, if you want to connect to what's going on, follow me what's going on here. If you want to connect to helping people in Israel, after these two tours are over, I will be moving around the country. I'll be meeting widows. I will be meeting military units. It looks like I'm going to go see an Air Force unit, so stay in touch. We're going to kind of bring some of this as we go along. I've got the wedding of my son coming up, so that's going to be an interesting kind of dynamic. And all of this is happening in Israel as the sun comes up over the Dead Sea. This is David Tal. This is the Balagan Connection. Hope to see you here as soon as possible.